Well, it's Camp Cupcake, is what it is. US lost 2-1 to Serbia in a game that I don't really care about the result of the game. I'm fine with losing, but it was kind of disappointing in the way that you didn't really see many players stepped up. We saw a few, and I'll get into them. We had a couple of good performances, particularly in attacking areas, but I don't think there was anybody who really staked a claim for a position with the real team, with like the good national team. Despite that, some decent positive performances and definitely some good performances by some of the younger players. But getting into the game, US had a good amount of possession, never really looked too dangerous. The one goal came off a good cross from Julian Gressel, headed home by Brandon Vazquez. And there'd be like one or two like individual moments, but the creativity in the squad wasn't really there. A big problem when you have these MLS camps is that like typically players who are in the MLS for a really long time, they just don't have the creativity that like someone like a Weston McKennie, a Yunus Musa, uh, Brendan Aronson did come from the MLS, so it's not like it can't be developed here, but like it just really doesn't happen. The game just kind of becomes stagnant, and you rely on individual moments, and it kind of happened again today. I think for individual performances, we had a couple of good players. Brendan Vazquez had that one goal. That was obviously a big standout moment. A really nice header. I thought that he probably could have taken a couple of chances better, and his hold-up play left a little bit to be desired. He had a couple of good moments, but when I look at the rest of the squad, like a Josh Sargent, a Ricardo Pepi, Haji Wright, Jordan Pefok, Daryl DK's back in the mix now. I'm not sure if I would have him in the March roster. I'd probably wait till the Gold Cup to get a bigger sample size for him. But overall, not too impressed, but like nothing really special out of Brandon Vazquez today. Our best performance, in my opinion, was Cowell today. Really good job on that left wing, cutting into his right foot. Showed a lot of explosiveness and a decent eye for goal. He hit the post 2 times. Even with his left foot, he was putting in some decent crosses, had a couple of good chances, and I think he was maybe our best attacking player. Vazquez got the goal, but Cal certainly looked good in this game, and I think he might have had the best performance in relation to a senior team game because I think what Cade Cowell showed today is something that I don't think I've ever seen out of Paul Arriola. I don't think I've seen Jordan Morris do since he's returned from his probably his first injury, but definitely since his second really bad injury. So I think he's probably ahead of those two with Christian Pulisic probably out for the March camp. Maybe Cade Cowell actually stakes a claim for a spot in that March roster for the Nations League, which is kind of funny because when I look at that U20 team, I probably don't have him as a starter behind Quinn Sullivan and Kevin Paredes, but he looked really good today. He certainly has the physical qualities. His technical ability wasn't really holding him back, and I still think he has a lot of room to grow. And I think it depends on how he gets started with his MLS season, but really good showing by Cade Cowell. And next player to talk about is Jekyll Neal. I mean, Jalen Neal. And yeah, tale of two halves with him. Amazing first half performance. He continued his good form with the U20s. He was our best center back playing out the back, including Walker Zimmerman. And like it's so nice when you have a center back who's like confident on the ball. He's like able to make those passes into the six that are like not dangerous, but like they take a bit of talent to complete. And Neal was really showing that. He had a lot of good step ups defensively, showed some really good instincts, and like a lot to be excited about. But this is a guy who has yet to make his MLS debut, and his inexperience shown, especially in that second half where directly at fault for a goal. Bad job there, and he was actually at fault for a second one a couple of minutes later. He got saved by an offsides call. It was offsides, but still a pretty bad mistake by Jalen Neal, and he's obviously not ready for the senior team. And honestly, when I look at the U20s, I think I rate Brandon Craig higher than him. But I think he showed a lot of talent, and if I'm the LA Galaxy, I'm finding a way to get him minutes this year, especially if they're not contending again, because this guy just has too much talent to leave off the field. You really got to see it in the first half, especially, and hopefully he starts to get some real minutes under his belt, and after that, he can really get into the team. Next two players I want to talk about are Alan Soñora and Alejandro Zendejas. And I feel like they're kind of similar. Zendejas was playing on that right wing, and I completely forgot that he was left footed when I was making that preview video. That was my bad. Soñora was playing more in the midfield, and they had a couple of decent moments, showed some talent on the ball. Like, I think they have enough talent to keep up with like the senior team, but it just really wasn't enough. Zendejas had a pretty good like last 15 minutes or so, but he wasn't doing anything close to putting the ball in the back of the net. He just showed some good feet a couple of times. Soñora had a couple of decent passes, but I'm not even sure if I would call him a good performance today. And I was really hoping with Zendejas, with Soñora, with Pomykal, who we're getting to later, there'd be a bit more creativity with the squad, but it just didn't seem to be the case, and disappointing there. Like they showed some talent, but like our senior team is really good in the midfield and wing areas, and I don't think they really showed enough to break into the team. And after that, I think those were really the top performers. Uh, Gressel and Zimmerman were kind of whatever today. Gressel had a really good cross, but I think DeJuan Jones probably looked a little bit better when he came on, and like he didn't do too well in possession, wasn't looking great defensively. I mean, maybe it's enough to get above like a Yedlin, a Shaq Moore, Brian Reynolds, Reggie Cannon, but behind Dest, behind Scally, he's not going to start. I'm really looking forward to see what John Tolkien can do because I think he might be able to have a better performance at a fullback position. And then Walker Zimmerman, he was fine. Still not anything great on the ball, and I really don't think he should be back with the senior team until like let's say Copa America 20 well Gold Cup. He can be in the Gold Cup, but like with the real team until like Copa America 2024 if nobody steps up because when I look at our squad right now, I see Chris Richards who's getting playing time with my Crystal Palace right there. You have Cameron Carter Vickers who's looking really good. Tim Ream who's I think objectively better than Walker Zimmerman even at his age. And then I want to try out Mark McKenzie a bit, Eric Palmer Brown, Austin Trusty. Like, I think there's a lot more players I'd go with before I'd bring Zimmerman back to the team because we know his ceiling really isn't that high. And he seems to be fine with just coming in whenever. Like, he seems to be a really good character, like, good person. But just talent wise, I want to experiment with some other players, even Miles Robinson coming back healthy as well. So not too much there. Then Jonathan Gomez and Aidan Morris, they should stick with the youth teams for now. Like it's obviously tough coming into a senior team performance. Like Jonathan Gomez, he's not playing like any like senior action at all right now. Like he's with Real Sociedad B. I think they're in the third tier in Spain, and like you can see talented player, but not ready yet. Aidan Morris, I think he still has some room to grow. He I don't think he's a full year back from his injury, so we'll see if he can get better, but I don't think it was the best performance today. On ball with the build-up, making a couple mistakes, not showing enough defensively, and I don't think he really offers this team too much. Then we've got Slonina, a couple of good saves. I think the first goal of the wall was just kind of messed up. That just seemed like miscommunication from a team that's not, it hasn't been there too long. That wasn't on anybody individually, I think. And a couple of good saves, but with his feet, he was a little bit like lackluster. He wasn't asked to do too much, but like there wasn't too much to be impressed by with Slonina today. And then lastly, Paxton Pomykal, who is in the midfield, and I think that his speed of play wasn't really enough to keep up with this group. He was always taking an extra touch. He wasn't showing much defensively, and he's just one player who has to show major improvement to get called back into a team like this. And with the subs, Aaron Long came on and we conceded a goal right away. Wasn't directly his fault. He did have a pretty bad giveaway. To be fair to him, he had like one good pass to Cade Cowell, but he shouldn't be anywhere near the squad. Same with Paul Ariola. We should have never recalled him after 2017. I will stand by that. Then with our other substitutes, Matthew Hoppe, he had a couple decent moments of hold up play. Didn't really get to do too much. Wasn't too impressive. I wasn't surprised that he wasn't starting. He was just on the bench for Middlesbrough this weekend. And then we had Kellyn Acosta came on. He was he didn't add anything. I don't really rate him as a player because of his technical ability, but he's our backup number 6 right now, and nobody's taken that spot. Though I will say we should be able to see Eyrk Williamson and as well DeJuan Jones play hopefully 90 minutes in the next game. Jones looked pretty good at right back. He showed a couple of good moments. I think if he is going to be with the national team, he is going to be playing a right back. we need to have a left-footed left back. So I think that's where Jones ends up playing. I think he showed a bit. I'd like to see him start at right back next game. Tolkien start at a left back next game, and we'll see how Williamson can do. He didn't impress too much, but he had a couple of good moments. So hopefully when he starts, he'll get to show a bit more. And that's really it. For guys who have a chance to stay with the national team, Slonina as a third choice is definitely a possibility. I think it's still Matt Turner number one. I think I'd give chances to Ethan Horvath before I give chances to Slonina. So, maybe comes as a third choice. At that point, it doesn't really matter. Then, as I mentioned before, Cade Cowell looked like he had a pretty good moments there. And when you look at that wing position, like you've got uh, way ahead of him Aronson, Reyna, depending on where they play, but I might want Reyna as a midfielder. Got a couple of goals in this last week, so you definitely want Reyna back in the team. Like, come on, like and like maybe there's a spot available for him. I'm not sure if you want to have like Malik Tillman there instead, who can play that role. Maybe you want to bring some extra strikers, like maybe Josh Sargent on the wing is still better than Cal, but like he did show a good bit of talent, so maybe you want him in the squad. Then I think Brandon Vazquez showed a good bit. Again, like it's just hard to break into this team because like I've got Sargent ahead of him. I think Daryl DK is more impressive. Ricardo Pepe's been in pretty good form recently. Then P Falk is somebody who I think should be with the team. And then, man, there's just so many Haji Wright. There's so many options that's really tough for Vasquez to break through. I think I'd hold off on him until the Gold Cup. If he has a good Gold Cup, then we can really see. But or if he goes like on a tear in the MLS, but I don't think there's really much there. And outside of that, like maybe Gressel over Yedlin, but I don't think there's too much. And yeah, that's it for the team. I think Hudson did all right with this. He didn't go away from Berhalter's system, which I think was a mistake. Aidan Morris didn't do the best at the six. Probably would have liked to have had like a Williamson beside him, but that's just kind of what he's been doing. I think if you want Hudson to be, I think Hudson's next step is like go to England, manage a team in the championship for a while, and if he can do well there, like maybe there's some potential for him in the future. He's still a really young manager, and I did like the team selection today. I think I'm not sure about starting Neal. He did have that really good first half, but I would have had Sam Rogers in there. I honestly would have had like Matt Miazga or maybe somebody like a Donovan Pines in the team. Probably not Donovan. Maybe like a Sean Nealis or Henry Kessler instead of a Donovan Pines, but just a decent MLS center back who could like do a job alongside Rogers. But um, probably would have liked Tolkien as well, but if you want to start him in the next game, like give him a full 90 in the game against Colombia, like it's fine if you didn't start him. Like same with Aronson. So like I don't really have a problem with what he did today, but I don't think he should be in contention to get the real job once we do finally like officially move away from Greg Berhalter. And yeah, that's it for today. I don't really care about the result losing to Serbia. They had a couple players who had a couple of good moments. That free kick was nice. That was Illich, right? And a couple of good combinations. Serbia, they're going to be a good team, like especially with like maybe not anybody in this group, but they are always putting through some really good players. Like Red Stars are just kind of a class team. Like historically, they're still putting through some good players. I think Milan Borgia and the Canadian keepers from there, and like some decent talent there. But with the U.S., it's just I don't think anybody really showed enough to get into the senior team. I honestly wouldn't be upset if nobody from this entire camp was called into the full roster in March. I'm hoping that John Tolkien can really impress, maybe DeJuan Jones, Eyrk Williamson, but at the moment I don't think there's really enough. Maybe Cade Cowell did enough, but and Vazquez got a goal, good for him. Gressel with that good cross. Definitely some positive moments, but it was just a decent game. It's just as much as you can expect from this type of camp. And yeah, sorry I've talked about. See you.